I was walking through the backwoods one cool summer afternoon when I came upon this old prospector down by the creek doing a little gold panning. I stood there and watched him for a while, and well, I guess eventually he felt my presence. He looked up at me and, realizing I meant him no harm, he motioned me on down. "Hi, my name's Pete," he said in a rough voice. It matched his looks. Long white hair and long white beard. After I introduced myself, he offered me a shot of his whiskey, and, well, I kindly declined. "Are you mining for gold?" I asked, looking down at the gold pen in his hand. "Yes," he said, laughing. "I've been out here for over 40 years. You live out here?" I asked, because I couldn't help but notice any cabin around. "Well, sometimes I live here, and sometimes I live on the other side of that big hill over there. You see, son, this is my home," he said to me with almost a sad look in his eyes. "This is God's country. Look around. It's beautiful. No city, no trains, no buses, no cars. This is what it's all about, son." We sat there by the creek bank and talked for the rest of that afternoon. He was so full of knowledge and wisdom. Eventually, the sun was getting ready to go down. I had to tell him that I had to be on my way. He reached into a little brown bag he had and pulled out this little piece of gold. He offered it to me. "Here," he said, "you take this." "No, I don't want your gold. I know you work hard for it." His hand still extended. I took that piece of gold. "Thank you," I said. "It will always remind me of you." We shook hands, and he went back to gold panning, and, well, I continued on through the wood. I couldn't help but reflect back to all the things he kept telling me. He was so full of knowledge. What stood out the most to me, what he said, that if you're too busy looking behind, you can never get ahead. Oh, hello everyone. Welcome. Gold Fever Radio. I'm Jack Tucker. Who are you? My name's Tony. What's the matter with you? You want to come up and say hi too? Come up and say hi too. What, you don't like Danny? Whoa, look at that. She does not like Danny. Hello. I love you. Whoa. Whoa. You better go sit back down. But yeah, you better go sit back down. She does not like you. Hello, everybody. She doesn't like me. No, she doesn't like you. So why don't you go back in your suitcase? Why don't you sit right there? Just lay down right there. That's a good place for you to lay down. All right. So welcome, everybody. It's 5 o'clock someplace, and it's Gold Fever Radio time. So you know what that means. Cheers, everybody. Grab your favorite drinks and enjoy. Ah, that's good. It's hot. I don't know where you guys are at. Some of you guys are probably freezing cold, but where I'm at here, it got warm today. It says it's 82 degrees right now. Let's see, who do we got there? We got Paul. Hello, Paul. Hello, Mary. Jerry. And Terry. And Roberto. And Richard. Welcome, everybody. Waiting on our guest to come in. And there's Randy. Look at that. Oh, Randy. Hey, Randy, I got your thing here. Where's your thing at? I got your thing here someplace, Randy. It's right here. right there. That's what Randy gave me once upon a time, a while back. I don't have to tell anybody what that is. You guys all know what that is, don't you, already? You guys, anyways. Uh, so, Troy, let's see who we got. Troy Stephenson, welcome from Australia. Wow, welcome. And PHX Bro 1, is that Phoenix Bro 1? That ain't my thing. Okay, so, anyways, like I said, we're waiting on our guest to log in. Ellie Knowles Rocks is our guest tonight. So, anyways, I'm still up here in the Meadview area in Arizona. I'll be here until I'm going to leave here next Monday and start my journey. So, I will be someplace, I think next week I'll either be in Nevada or in Utah traveling. I got to make it Salt Lake for Mother's Day. Let's see, Terry just spent 2.5 hours watching SpaceX Dragon lift off and docking with the ISS. Kind of like watching paint fade, but neat at the same time. Cool. So anyways, that's where I'll be. So next week's show, I don't know where I'll be at. I'll be someplace out on the road someplace. And so you can join me then. I'm at Mormon Lake Lodge. The weather is great. Is that up by Flagstaff? Mormon Lake, I believe, is up by Flagstaff someplace. I bet you the weather is great up there because it's pretty warm here. So I've been out nugget hunting since I've been here. I did a little bit of dry washing, found a little bit of gold dry washing, but mostly I've been out running the metal detector. Rick Messina. Hello, Rick. Howdy. 94 at my house a day. It's, like I said, it's 82 here. So this is my gold I found so far. You can hear it. You can see it in there, kind of. It's all in one pile. Biggest ones, I've got a few grammars and a couple of them that are like 1.5 grams. That's my biggest ones. I think all in all, there's 44 pieces of gold in there. Total weight, I think, was just over 14 grams. So I got to try to get at least at 15 grams, so I at least can get me 1/2 ounce of gold. What the hell is happening to gold? That's what I want to know. The gold prices. You guys been checking them out? Let me give you current prices on all the precious metals right now. Gold took a shit dive. Gold dropped down to $18.85 right now. Silver is at $23.36. Platinum is at $9.26. And even rhodium is at 18,800. But gold, it dropped. I mean, it was like 1980, almost like looking like it was going to hit the 2,000 mark. A little bit, it did go over 2,000. And now it's be clear down 1885. So what the hell happened to gold? That's what I want to know. That's not good at all. So anyways, like I said, we're waiting on our guests. So I've been out metal detecting. I go out for about 1.5 hours in the mornings before the sun comes up, or as the sun's coming up, I'm out there. I thought I had me a really good suntan work going on until I took a shower, and then I washed it all away. But so it all disappeared. So hey, cheers, everyone. So I'm inside the trailer here, and I've got to run a generator. I am plugged in into an inverter, but I'm afraid that if I that it would suck my battery dry really quick. So I'm running a generator as backup, and I have to use, of course, use a hotspot. And a couple of times it's kicked me off. So if it does kick me off, I'll just have to log back on like everybody else in the world, though. But so I'm up here doing a little bit of like metal detecting, hanging out, and I'm about done with this place. But also as a reminder, remember last week's guest, you guys remember, was the guy from the dais, and he offered up until midnight tonight, you had to get that take advantage of the special there. You get one of them cool shirts and a hat, and you get immediate shipping on the dais 2. Other than that, they're back ordered or pre-order what you got to do. And generally, there's about a 3 week or longer waiting list. So to have them shipped immediately. So if anybody wants one of them daises, you got till midnight tonight to order them, and then that special went away midnight tonight. That was dirt, not suntan. Yes, that's right, Rick. It was dirt. I thought I had me a nice brown tan going on until I showered, and then it went away. So just been out nugget shooting. You guys have been seeing the post there. I've been posting on Facebook there the my pieces of gold that I find pretty well every day. Terry says 36 degrees and rain for the next 6 days. Not yellow hunting days at all. No, not if it's doing that. David Reed, send all the rain you can. We are now extreme drought in Colorado. I don't know when the last, it rained here. I think it was last week. It rained for about an hour. A little band came through. You know, the rains kind of help quiet the ground down when you're metal detecting. Take some of that static out of the ground, some of that hotness out of the ground. But so I've been up here. Like I said, I've been using the 6000, and I've still got to go out and give the Deus 2 a try. I've been hunting in this nugget patch area, and I think I pretty well about cleaned it out. There's about 4 of us out here, 3 of us out here looking for the gold. Other people are finding it too. I don't know if they're finding it quite like I have, because I'm in my secret spot, and I don't want to tell them where my secret spot's at. So I look refreshed. Well, thank you, Terry. I just cleaned up a little bit. You know, I have to do that once in a while. Take a shower, clean up. My hay fever's still kicking my ass though, because it's been really windy here, so I get stuffed up and plugged up, and you know, boogers in my nose, and so I'll be walking around, and I have been putting on, I've got me on the phone where you can keep track of your steps, how many steps you've been taking. So I've been taking a lot of steps and walking all over these mountainsides. Sometimes I was up over 11,000 steps in a day, which for me, that's pretty good, because some days I may be at just a couple of steps, but and here's that wind again, man. It just like slams against me really bad when it starts to blow like this here. I would like to go out and do a live, like a live dig, and take you guys along as I'm, doing it. But it could be an hour before I even get a target. Sometimes I don't get any targets at all, and I'm out there for probably a couple hours and I don't get anything. So that'd be a pretty boring live show to have you guys walking around detecting. But so like I said, I'm going to Salt Lake when I leave here, and there's a couple old parks that I want to play in. I like to metal detect a couple old parks as I'm traveling. So how many steps equal a mile? That's a good question, because when I look at the thing, it tells me like I may have walked 5 point something miles. So I guess you'd have to divide the steps. I know there's 5,280 yards in a mile, I think, or something like that. So I don't know how they equivalate, 3. That I really don't know. Now you're giving me, give me 2 steps, mister. Now you're making me confused there. You're making me think too much. And I don't know where our guest is. I bet our guest probably forgot that she was coming on tonight. She's probably, I wonder if I could send her a message. Maybe I should see if I can do that, just to say, where are you at? Let's see. See, I'm just going to say you can log on. You can log on now. We are live. She probably back. I thought she was out here someplace, but maybe she's back there in Virginia or something like that. I don't know. But so we'll see. Hopefully she'll. Let's see. Welcome, David. Welcome, Don. Yes, you like them. You like them gold picks. Well, I'm glad you like those gold picks. I like to find them gold and take them pictures of them. I went out this morning and I found like a couple of them right off, almost like within a half an hour. I found two of them, and then I came back and I went out again and I didn't find anything, and went out again, didn't find anything, and then I went out again this afternoon and I found three little dinky ones, and those are I posted those pictures though. But like I said, the biggest one I found is just over a gram and a half. Total weight is over 14 grams so far, I do believe. So I got to try to get to that 15 grammer mark. So gold has taken a dive, so I don't like to see that. But this is actually the best I've ever found in metal detecting. I'm having a bad internet connection. I'm trying to work on it. Okay. Okay, she's having a bad internet connection, so she's working on that there. So we'll see when she logs in here. More than I've found this year. The best I ever done when I went to Alaska up at AKU, I think I found 32 pieces of gold. So a couple weeks ago, I was saying, oh, my nose itches. I said hay fever. That I was saying that I needed to try to break my record and try to get more than 32 pieces of gold, because that was as most I've ever found. So I've well shattered that. And there's a guy up here before me that when I told him there was gold, up here, he left the camp out there and came out here, and I think he found over 70 pieces of gold or someplace around there. So there's a lot of gold that's been found out through this area right here. So there is a private mining claim gold beaver prospecting club up here. Let's see. How do you sell your gold? Generally, I don't keep my gold. Whether I give it away. Sometimes we do like them prize wheels, for fundraisers where we will put gold on the wheel and get rid of it that way, or we'll put it in pay dirt bags or something like that. But after I'm all done setting here and I make it back home after this journey, I don't have to be back until probably around sometime after 1st of July, 4th of July or something like that. So I'm on the road for a while. Then when I make it back, I'll figure out how I got to get rid of all my gold. But so stay tuned to that. May have to have some contest and give some gold away. I could do something like that. I did. I've been doing the videos. You guys that are on the channel, subscribers on the YouTube channel, Gold Fever Adventures, know the video. So I've been doing some videos, and the last one I kind of done, I haven't posted it yet, but I talked about giving some of this gold away. And I was doing some dry washing. And so, it's kind of boring just sitting there with the camera rolling as you're, shoveling into a dry washer. So I did it fast motion so it's really fast. So I made a little comment, who can tell me how many shovelfuls of dirt I ran through that dry washer? So, that might be something to do. So what I'll do is on this radio show for you guys that are good supporters, that's probably the way to do that. When I say or post that or something like that, when you guys see that video, that's probably the question I'm going to ask you is how many shovelfuls of dirt did I shovel into that dry washer? I don't really know the correct answer. I'd have to go back and check them out. So if you guys, go see them videos, and you guys can, when I ask that question, and the first one that could get that right in the chat room could win. And I see our guest just happened to pop in here. So let me, without further ado, hey, let's see, Shane Dole. Hey, Jack, love your shows and would like to see what you can get with a wet wash trommel from Garden Triangle, Victoria, Australia. Yeah, me too. All right, let me bring our guest in here. Right, here we go. There she is, look at that. There she is, she made it.
I made it. Can you hear me?
We hear you just fine.
Awesome.
Ellie loves rocks. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Well, I am Ellie Ringo from Ellie Knows Rocks, and I am a professional geologist and a prospector and a massive rock hound, a content creator, you name it, and I'm kind of there.
Geologist. I'm glad to hear the geologist word. Because, man, have I got. So here's the rocks I've been collecting these last few days when I go out metal detecting. I have a habit of collecting rocks besides
Awesome.
gold, but the only rocks I've been collecting is rocks like these.
Oh, you got little iron banding. Oh, they're hearts.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
adorable. That's so cool, actually. I know a couple people that love to collect different shapes and stuff of different rocks, and so that's really neat. I've never been particular to like a specific shape that I must collect, but for polished rocks, I've been collecting like egg-shaped polished rocks, which I think
oh.
are kind of cool. But otherwise, I think that it's really cute when people collect specific shapes, especially if you can find a heart-shaped rock.
Well, I'll be out there because I've been doing a lot of metal detecting. So as I'm walking around, just staring at the ground, and I'll see a rock, and I say, "Oh, that kind of looks like a little heart." So I'll pick that up.
That's awesome.
Uh, let's see who we got there. Let's see. I saw two rattlesnakes a week ago on the east side of Lake Pleasant. Wow. Break for bedrock. Welcome. Hottest geologist around. Ooh, man. Let's put that up there. So you got a fan right here.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Uh, David Reed got your pet rock ran away. So anyway, so geologists. So it's weird to figure out. You're in Arizona, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Arizona. I'm technically located in Lake Havasu, but I bounce around between Phoenix and Baghdad, Arizona a lot.
Okay, so you're familiar with the Havasu area then?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm really familiar with that area. I'm overly extremely familiar with Baghdad just because I worked there for so long that like I kind of know all the ins and outs and all the cool places, I guess.
uh, I used to have some claims up there in Baghdad area, but Havasu. So you're familiar with the Franconia area?
Yeah.
Have you go up there and you hunt meet the meteorites or gold?
I haven't actually gone to where they found like the big area in like Franconia, or the excuse me, what was it? 2 years ago they found that really big nugget, which was absolutely crazy
Oh yeah.
insane. But I haven't found a lot of gold in Havasu just because I'm everywhere else looking, and every time I decide to go out, my equipment breaks. Last time the fan and the weight on my dry washer broke, and so it was like, "Nothing's happening, it's not moving, I'm putting dirt in it, and it's not going anywhere." It was super frustrating, so I had to replace that, but every time I seem to go out there, like, something either breaks or I forget something, so there's a time and a place, I guess, and I just haven't found it yet to actually be able to go do anything out there.
I think I was watching seeing that video when you went out there to try to do some dry washing.
Oh, it was so frustrating. I got a ton of buckshot, and that was it, and then when I went out again, like, everything was busted, I'm like, "Oh, this sucks."
Charlie says, "Hey there. No, Terry, I haven't used the Deus 2 yet. I'm still waiting on that." So I'm up here in the Meadview area, Lake Mead, up in this area.
Oh, cool.
And so every piece of gold that I have found a total of, where'd my gold nuggets go? Right here. I have got just over 14 grams.
Oh,
The
that's cool.
biggest one's just about a gram and a half. But every one of them I'm finding is attached to caliche.
Is it?
Every one of them.
Oh,
So
that's
you
weird.
can, I know you can barely tell that piece of gold. Sometimes you can't even see it, but you can just tell by the way it looks. And then so I just drop in a little bit of vinegar, and it
Mhm.
immediately just kind of destroys that caliche and shines them up pretty good. So
Wow, though, that's really weird that it would be stuck, like, right in the layer. I mean, usually there's something that happens, before or after it, and so you get that gold underneath or above caliche, but not usually in it. That's really specifically odd. That's
well,
cool.
the only thing I could surmise is this area may have been like a lake bed or something,
Mhm.
and the caliche being like false sediment or bedrock, and so ever how it got put in, and then it settled and kind of got lodged in that softer sediment, and then once the water drained out, of course, it's left behind, and and it kind of hardens up inside.
Yeah, that's very possible.
the caliche layer, because most of and you can tell where these piles are. There's the famous what they call the Queen Tut mine is up here,
Oh, I've
and
heard
you
that.
see, yeah, you see a lot of these washes, and what they did is they pushed everything up into piles so they could get to the caliche layers. So they were
Okay.
working the caliche, and there's a lot of gold in these piles that they just pushed up that they didn't do nothing with.
Probably because they just couldn't see it, but what a great place to, like, take your metal detector out and say, "Hey,
Yeah,
look what I found."
yeah. So,
Wow.
but it just seems to be concentrated on one ridge that's probably about a quarter of a mile long, is where all this
Wow.
gold that seems to be coming from, and
Are
it's
th
just
are there any big
amazing.
hills in the area or old washes, like, right where you're at? Just because I haven't been there specifically, I've heard of it, I know of the area, but I've never walked on it.
I mean, there's washes coming off of the hills, and so you would think if you find a piece of gold, like because a lot of it is rough,
Mhm.
and so you would think that it didn't travel far,
Yeah.
and it would be part of a load or something like that. And there's no other gold, so all you'll find is the one little piece of gold and nothing else near it or by it. And
Huh.
so it's just kind of strange how it all is laid in. But anyway, so that's what I've been up here doing. So you collect rocks. How did you get involved collecting rocks?
I've been collecting rocks since I was a little kid. Me and my dad used to go out hunting for just bee agates, and I didn't know what they were when I was little, but I thought they were so cool because they were shiny, you could see through them, and so I used to, collect them, put them in jars and that kind of thing. And as I got a little bit older, I was like, "Oh, rocks are more and more cool." And so I decided that since I hated my job, I just needed kind of a vacation. So I took myself opal hunting in Nevada, and I went to the Virgin Valley. I went to the Peacock Opal Mine, and I stayed there the entire day. I got filthy. I loved it. It was awesome. I was trying to collect as many opals as possible, and I found the biggest find of the day, which was pretty sweet, and I was super, super excited about it. And I went home and I was like, you know what? I wonder if I could like look for rocks for a living. I wonder what that's called. So I actually Googled it and I was like, how do you look for rocks for a living? And it came up with geology. I was like, yes, this is so cool. And I was like, okay, now what's geology? And so I had to kind of break it down. So a little bit of reverse engineering there to like figure it out. But I immediately went to the college and I was like, "This is what I wanna do. What do I do?" And they're like, "Are you nuts?" I'm like, "No. Am I?" And so through process of elimination, I figured out what I needed to do. And so got my degree in that. But I've always been fascinated just by anything you can collect, any different types of crystals and, anything shiny and pretty and that kind of thing. So you could say I have a squirrel attitude. If it's shiny, I'm like, "Yes," and I look for it, right? But I love, love rock hounding. It's something I can go out and if somebody says, "We can find this in this area," or "We've been told that it's here," I can go out and find it. And I kind of pride myself on that I'm like, you have to tune your eyes into what you're looking for, and especially for specific minerals. And gold is a pain in the butt. And uh, through doing a lot of consulting for a lot of different gold mines, it's been interesting to see where their troubles are, like the type of material they're looking in and that kind of thing. So that's been a whole awesome challenge that I've loved to take on. And so that's been pretty amazing. But I don't think there's any aspect of geology except for maybe molten lava that I'm not like a big fan of just because I don't want to get burnt. But I really do want to see an exploding volcano someday. So, there's this facets to all of it.
I would love to know geology. I really would absolutely wish that I knew geology, but I can't even pronounce half of them words. Metamorphosis and all. And my attention span is so short that I've tried to read those books and I can't understand them. So you geologists, I mean, you guys got to be some smart individuals.
Well, I don't know about how smart we are, but we sure love a beating. I mean, going through some of that stuff, believe me, I still look at some stuff and I'm like, "Ugh." And you can't I'm like, "Okay, I'll get there, just a second." And I'll still stumble over my own tongue just at saying some of the stuff, but and when talking to people and you say, like, a specific geologic term, a lot of people don't realize that that one term usually takes an entire book to study to understand what that one term means, and That's what I think that people are like baffled by. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's like intimidating." But if you break it down and I try to show people that you can understand geology and you can love it and you can even get little tidbits. You don't need that whole book. I try to condense it into something as small and concise and understandable as I can, just because you will lose people's attention, right? They're like, and as soon as that blank look comes across their face, oh, you know they're lost. And if that happens within the first 2 minutes, I know that I'm doing something wrong. So I got to change the way that I'm doing it. But yes, those big words, kind of a pain. I would say that the calculus and physics part of being a geologist is probably the more difficult part than the actual terms.
Well, I just know that I couldn't. I mean, I would love to, like I say, to figure out. You go to an area. So let's just say if I'm looking for gold,
Mhm.
and I couldn't tell you other than when people say, they ask me, they say, what am I looking for when I want to try to find gold? So I said, well, like you got to try to find granite, because you got to have granite. You got to have, like sand. You got to have quartz. You got to have black sands, and for some reason, green rocks are always associated with gold. And I believe somebody called that epidote or what something like that. Your greenish rock. Those
Mhm.
seem to always be around rock, and for some reason, caliche is always around gold. So
Yes, all of those terms are very validated, and it all depends on like what area of the country you're in to boot. Like some of those areas will not have all of those little things that need to add up, and some of them will. Sometimes you'll just have one of like those 8 different things that you really need to look for. And it's really hard, I guess, to train that your eye to go, "Oh my gosh, I should go way over there to look for gold." And people are like, "Why?" And it's like you can't necessarily tell somebody, "Oh, I have a gut feeling about it." Even though I believe very truly, if you have a gut feeling, follow it because it's probably real close to dead on. But there are certain like geologic features or different structures like big geology, macro geology, and regional geology that help you determine if that specific area is going to have gold. And a lot of the rock types have to do with it, but a ton of it has to do with faulted structures and post mineralization, like way, way back in the Eocene. I'm talking like 40 million years ago, sort of thing. And usually I lose people right about now because dates and time frames are kind of a pain in the butt. But basically, there was a ton of splitting of the ground, pulled apart like taffy, and a bunch of liquid got shot through. And so it shot through in these different areas. So if you look at like regional geology, you can actually see these structures that go through different states. Arizona is a perfect example of one where you can actually see the patterns run across the state almost like stretch marks. And in those areas, it's almost unfailing that you're going to find gold within these like small little sections. And as a geologist, you can see those, and it's really cool. Whether every time you pinpoint something, it's going to have gold, that's a hit or miss. So I don't want to be responsible for that. But in those general areas, you have a really, really good shot. And a lot of the metamorphic rocks that we have here, like the epidote, those are some of the things that tell us that gold is here because metamorphism is usually some form of heat and sometimes liquid and a lot of pressure, which also means post mineralization. And so, as a geologist looking for those green rocks, you know that something was pushed up in there that hopefully is going to have gold around it. And any kind of silicate rich fluid usually has gold, usually has iron. And so all of those things are going to accumulate to finding gold in that specific area.
okay, so then my understanding is, so like I guess, is it safe to say that gold is always replenishing itself, and the reason I'm saying that, let's say like in the earth it's liquid, so
Mhm,
down inside the earth gold is traveling liquid,
mhm,
and I guess if it's coming along and let's say it hits like quartz or something which is liquid, come together, they meet and they get shot up into the surface, and
mhm,
then they break apart and work down. So if it's always forming,
mhm.
can it always come up at any time?
Well, that it's an awesome question. That's a loaded question, but I'll break it down and try to. So, gold is, what is it? 79 protons or neutrons. I forget like exactly what it is, but for that elemental purpose to actually create that element, all of the things have to line up. So yeah, it's you can say that it is a replenishing sort of thing in our in our core, in our mantle, and then coming through the crust. And so as things are combinated and pushed together, you are going to get gold that is going to be, again, redistributed. There are multiple activities of volcanic activity around the world. So that's constantly bringing up mineral rich fluid. However, does it have gold in it always? That's really hard to say depending on where it came from. But there's I would say there's mixed feelings amongst the scientific community where they're like, "Oh, gold came from the sky." No, gold didn't come from a meteor and hit the ground and then disperse all over it. Gold is in mountains. Gold is in the rocks. Gold is in the original geology that was, forming here due to the liquid processes of geology to make those giant mountains. And so, squishing together different amounts of liquid, squishing together different amounts of rocks, and forming new rocks can bring those minerals that have gold or that have the elemental properties to combine at an elemental level in order to make gold in that liquid. And I know that's very complicated. I'm trying to make that as simple as possible, but it is such a loaded question that's very difficult to answer.
No, no, I understand. I mean, I understand. Well, so I guess the other thing, like I've heard say, gold is never found in a pure state. It's always mixed with
Yeah.
something else. And so,
Hmm.
depending on the area that you're in, like I think Arizona's probably copper, Nevada might be silver. So, depending on where you're at, it has more mixture of something else in there. Uh,
Yeah, that's very,
so I,
very true. Because gold, the element of gold is very heavy. And so anything that's in that same range of having that same density, that same molecular structure can bind to the gold. So you can get your leads, you can sometimes get nickels and zincs that are in with gold. You can oftentimes get silver, platinum, and gold, two different elements, they can still mix. And along with other really rare earth minerals as well, can be in gold because, they any given time for the purity, people from 10 karat to 24 karat gold, you have a large range of all kinds of impurities that can be in gold. And the only way to actually get true gold is to smelt it out and burn off all the other impurities or melt them off first. And then you have just your plain gold. And then you have the purest gold possible.
okay. Well, you answered one of the questions that I had was I hear people say gold comes from outer space, and that's just hard to phantom. Other than the only thing I could think of is when the Earth was formed
Hmm.
from maybe from outer space, it would have came from there. But technically, yeah, it's not going to get shot in. It has to come from the Earth. Uh, Phoenix Bro once says on the east side of Lake Pleasant, can you see there's a desert he saw, blah blah, a patch of cement that someone threw away that looked blah blah blah. Would that be caliche?
Well, if it's cement, it's cement. If it looks like caliche, that it almost looks like a conglomerate with that real thick white layer coating all the rocks, it's a good chance that it probably is caliche because there's a fair amount of it over there in Lake Pleasant. There are a couple different caliche caps actually, and that's all because that was very highly lacustrine originally. Even though Lake Pleasant is a man-made lake, the area around it had a lot of water flow, and you know that because of the all those areas that are the rhyolites that are the big mountains up there. When they've been weathered out, you can find really great thunder eggs over there. You can find gas bubble geodes, and you can find little calcite like caverns big enough that you can like walk into. And all that comes from really, really heavy water flow. And so if there's a good chance that it probably was like a caliche conglomerate from one of the washes over there.
I thought there was two different types of caliche. Like one is caliche being kind of that whitish, it's just kind of, it looks like chalk almost. And
Hmm.
then you got a conglomerate rock which is similar to caliche, but it's got all types of other stuff mixed in with it, which is actually probably harder than caliche.
It is much harder because it's been there longer. And it's the same mineral. It's just one of them has sat there forever and gotten much more hard, where the other one is sometimes that powder, but it's still like hard pan. You still, if you dig into it, you're like, whoa, and it cracks, right? And it crumbles. So you get that almost false bedrock. And so there's two different levels for it, but it's the same mineral. if that makes sense. It's the same thing. It's just in a different form.
Okay, so I know there's two areas. Like let's just say uh, out by the Rich Hill area.
Mm-hmm.
You know where that's at, Rich
Mm-hmm.
Hill. So all Wickenburg area and all of that. When
Mm-hmm.
you go out prospecting for gold, all the washes have big rocks in them. Nice
Yes.
big red dirt, big rocks, which kind of would tell me that was probably a river that ran through there. You go over in the Quartzsite area, Siloam area, you don't see those big rocks, but you'll see
Mm-hmm.
like maybe I call them caliche bricks. You know, they're just like big
Oh,
pieces of caliche
bleach.
that's broke
Yeah.
apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that may have been a lake bed, but there's no, it was never a river, I guess.
There's one of the things, like by Rich Hill and that Stanton area and whatnot in Wickenburg, there were a ton of debris flows, like way back when. And I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of years ago, huge debris flows that were basically taking down the mountain, as so to speak, because that mountain used to be, 2, 3 times that size at least. But the debris flows will almost create um, their own river. And so you can get almost a form of a very rounded rock very quickly by it pounding against a bunch of other rocks in a big debris flow manner. And a lot of the washes out there in Stanton specifically, they have huge debris flows, almost as if they're a Gila conglomerate that we have a lot of here in Arizona. It's it's kind of fascinating. I've been studying a little bit of the stuff out there because I consult for some of the claims. And the stuff that we're finding by digging in different areas is insane. It looks like almost that there were like ancient riverbeds. And I'm talking like back during the mountain forming events to make like small rounded pebbles, not even those big ones that you're talking about, but little ones and uh, very graded little ones. So they're all basically the same size. So it varies greatly about what can actually round a rock because you can also get volcanic tubes that'll do the exact same thing, that'll come up in areas, and usually those tubes are extremely gold or mineral rich. A lot of silver, a lot of copper comes out of them too, and they look like an old riverbed that was shot up in a tube, and then once it flows down the hill, people are like, where is this coming from? There's no river here. But there's a reason. It's because it was ancient volcanic activity. So your rounded rocks can mean a lot of different stuff. More likely than not, there was some form of a stream bed or something, but it's not always the case.
So TW says, aren't volcanoes a huge factor in where gold is found?
Mm, volcanic activity is a huge portion of it, but not volcanoes. Like we think of volcanoes, say like Hawaii or Mount St. Helens, or like something extreme, right? Not those don't have anything to do with like the gold process. The the gold process for volcanic activity means that we have our crust and then we have our mantle. And so our volcanic activity is here. We don't see it under the crust until something in the crust splits, some kind of a fissure where that mineral rich material can ooze up through and then usually seals and cools before you ever see any kind of a volcanic explosion. And that's one of those things that's really difficult to explain, especially with the Texas zone when Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and California all split, just literally almost like taffy, just kind of fold apart. And all of this mineral rich fluid from the active underground volcanoes, large terms, but all of that fluid got shot up in there. There were no huge active volcanoes right along that area. On either side there were giant huge volcanoes, but none of them were spewing out minerals that had gold inside of them. It doesn't usually work that way cuz gold needs a chance to cool. Gold has to cool slowly, like quartz. The only way you get like a terminated quartz crystal is if the quartz or silica liquid cools at a very, very slow rate. Same with gold. In order for gold to form inside of a silicate rich area, all that gold has to pool because it has a different melting temperature and a different cooling temperature than the quartz. And once it pools, decides to cool, then it takes on the shape of the quartz crystals that are already cooled in that area. So you get all those little, sometimes you get very dendritic little areas. Sometimes you'll get, just little specimen pieces where you'll see the quartz included in it is because the gold cooled around that and just basically kept it as its own. So the cooling process is very important when you're talking about where gold is also located. Sorry if
So,
that was a very long answer for that.
so you hear the saying, uh, wherever you find gold, you'll find black sand, but wherever you find black sand, you won't always find gold.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So,
So go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, like, so let's just say, now I may be up in the night. So I've always kind of thought if I'm in a wash and I'm looking for an area to dry wash, say, and I see chunky black sand. So I've always kind of said chunky black sand, chunky gold, fine black sand, fine gold. If they're traveling together, if the black sand's getting beat down, so should the gold get beat down also then?
Yeah, sometimes, and that's very true. And your black sand can be a constituent of quite a few things. Um, excuse me. You can get your iron rich sand, or just it's almost straight up iron ore almost. Most black sand is hematite or magnetite. And so with those, you'll get like the really shiny black sand. It looks like it glistens almost from every side. And that's called specular hematite just because it's shiny. It's not magnetic. And then your magnetite, which is your other black sand, it's super heavy. Both of these are going to be comparable with gold. And that's why, yeah, gold rides an iron horse. Black sand is iron rich. And so you're going to have that gold sit with the black sand just because it's heavy enough to be there. Black sand is always a huge constituent and where you're looking for gold. So yeah, if you do see that on a shoreline, there is no harm at all either sticking a pan in the ground, grabbing a bucket, doing a bucket test or something, because you never know what you're going to find. Because black sand can end up in some pretty crazy areas. And then there's also the types of black sands that are made out of biotite. So you'll get black biotite sands and then with hematite. So they're not near as heavy. So that's where you're going to find black sand, but you're not going to find any gold. And so, yes, the size is extremely comparable. If you're finding powder black sand, you're going to find micro gold. If you're finding bigger, chunkier black sand and magnetite, you're definitely going to find both some, flour gold and your chunkier gold in those areas.
So what is it? I'm assuming that it's magnetite. That'll set off a PI detector. So if I'm out metal detecting, I'll get a signal that tells me it's gold in the ground, and I may dig down a foot, and all it is a stinking ass. I'll call it a hot rock, but
Yeah.
but it is a hunk of. It's a black. That piece of black iron magnetite is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
so,
the hot rocks suck.
Right, but not all. I mean, you have to have a PI. I mean, if you try to go out with a VLF or something, you're going to go insane, detecting. So you have to have a PI. But that PI will still pick up those iron rocks.
Mm-hmm.
But so what I'm saying is, if you find one of those iron rocks, does that mean gold could be associated close by there? Is that an indication, or?
Yes and no. I would say that if you're finding like an enormous amount of magnetite in an area, especially if you haven't found the source, if there's no like host rock, like a big old chunk of it where it's breaking off of or something, then it had to come from somewhere. So that the weight that is pulling that down is also going to have the gold associated in the same area. So you follow those water trails to wherever that you're finding those hot rocks. Unfortunately, gold is associated with that. And again, not always. But if you are finding them and there's no harm in looking, sometimes you can just find magnetite beds. They suck, but they're for a geologist, they're pretty cool. There's all kinds of different things that are associated with them. But you're not always going to find gold if you're finding huge magnetite beds. And good luck using a metal detector on them at all, because it's never going to mute it out. But it is a good thing to keep your eye out for gold in those areas. But while you're looking at the magnetite and you're looking at all those things, look at what's attached to it. If there's quartz attached to it, or if there is any form of a metamorphic rock attached to it, like some epidote or some chlorite rich rock, which are going to give you those green stones that people are looking for, those things are going to be huge indicators if you have gold in the area. Now, if your magnetite is bleeding, or it looks like it has real rusted stains on it, like it's been oxidized a lot, that usually means that you're going to have some form of pyrite that's associated with the magnetite, which then definitely you want to look in that area for gold as well.
Okay, so let me. So when we talk of gold, a lot of people say when you're out walking around and you see these trumpet plants, that trumpet plants grow in highly mineralized ground, and since gold loves mineralization, they're associated. Well, it just means that the ground is mineralized.
Yes. And there's a lot of those plants in Arizona. I actually had to like break a lot of hearts, I think, with the last presentation I did. But like the trumpet plant is like one of the biggest fallacy facts for looking for gold. People always think, oh, there's a trumpet plant, there's going to be gold. Well, there's a lot of other plants though too. I mean, there's different sage plants, there's like desert buckwheat plants, and there's a couple others that are associated with really, really rich mineral soil, heavy metals specifically, not just minerals, but heavy metals. So you can have anything from gold, silver, platinum, iron, nickel, lead, not necessarily your magnetites, but any of those sort of minerals are also going to possibly be associated with why that plant's growing. Basically, the acidity that the soil gets in it from those really, really heavy metals is what is feeding that plant. And that plant can survive in that type of soil. So they can be on any mine. I actually did a small video just about to show people that just because you see this doesn't mean gold, because this specifically, it was at a copper mine, but it was still, you had a ton of trumpet plants everywhere. And then I've also seen people dig up a trumpet plant, put it in their pan it down, and have a picker in there. And so you're like, well, crap. But just because, I mean, correlation and causation, you have two completely different things. And so, just because one happens doesn't mean the other one will. But don't throw it away either. You just can't bank on it.
No, I've just heard that just means the ground is mineralized is really all.
Yeah,
And
heavy
when
metals
you
is what it means.
okay, so and when you're talking about the magnetite, I know a lot of times people will think a big hunk of magnetite is actually a meteorite.
I know. I get this a lot. And I hate like because people are so excited. That's just it. People are like, oh my gosh, I found a meteor. I found a meteor. And I was like, okay, well, what are you doing to it? Test it. And so they go ahead and they test it. So they'll scratch it or they'll put a magnet to it and it'll do all these things and it'll pass most of the tests. But in general, a meteorite is not going to leave like a streak. It can if it's been highly rusted, if it's an old iron meteorite, you're going to get that blackish red streak. But for the most part, if you're looking at something where you're actually going to find it on the ground, you're not going to find a meteorite, unfortunately. Also, a meteorite is going to be very small. Like they're tiny. Like things that people show me are like huge. I'm like, do you know the type of damage that thing could do coming from space hitting Earth? Like, we're talking about small, small. If you're talking really tiny, then yes, then you have a much better chance. And I always tell people if they have any types of questions about that, if I haven't answered it thoroughly, go take it to one of the universities. They can put it underneath of one of their high-powered microscopes. You can also take it to different jewelry stores and they can shoot it with one of their guns to see if it's, anything possible. Because identifying things in pictures is very difficult sometimes, but I try to do the best I can. Seeing it in person, though, really helps out. And so I've had a lot of people bring me up a piece of magnetite, and it definitely was not a meteorite. And it hurts because you just see the heartbreak on them, and they're like, oh, but I thought this really was something. And you're like, sorry.
No, yeah, I think last week somebody gave me a piece of. He says, I think I found a meteorite. And, as soon as I looked at it, I said, no, it's not a meteorite. I mean, you can really, meteorites are, they got like a shine, they're smooth. They've got a totally different characteristic.
Oh, yeah.
But they are highly magnetic. And that's why and they are kind of in that, they look a lot alike. And I think for the, that I can see why people would misunderstood that there. Tad had a question back there. It said, what is a thunder egg?
Oh, do I have one right here? Hang on. Yeah, I do. So a thunder egg is, so this is what the outside looks like. Kind of crappy looking, right? If you guys can still hear me. Well, a thunder egg is solid.
Wow, that's cool.
So a thunder egg is completely solid. Like geodes are hollow, right? And you can even see part of it right here has almost like a geode structure going on, but the whole thing is completely solid. And it's silicate rich with opal in it. And so the white portions right in here and they go across this way, that's just common opal, white opal. So you'll get beautiful like stripes and different colors. And thunder eggs are awesome, and they're found all over around Lake Pleasant. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm still waiting to get a tile saw with a good blade on it so I can cut mine open because I've got like a box and it's so frustrating. I've got one cut, right, and polished, but I'm like, that took forever. So I can't sit there for a couple hours just cutting one rock at a time.
No, I think it seemed like I remember up in Oregon, you could buy a lot of them thunder eggs that they sold them up there.
Yeah, Oregon has a ton of thunder eggs. They have an awesome star pattern inside too. It's not this is kind of blocky. The Oregon ones have this like really pretty like star that goes all around them. I'm not doing a good job of drawing it, but they're quite beautiful, so they're very different.
And you mentioned geodes, so people, I know you can go out to like Quartzsite and the Tucson shows, and people are selling these geodes, and they're big rocks, and I mean, I know there's a lot of places in Arizona that you can go geode hunting, but I guess when you pick them up, if it's really heavy, then it's not hollow. If it kind of
Yeah,
feels lighter, then it's probably
these are
hollow.
super heavy. Like the just the weight on them itself is super heavy. When you get like calcite geodes, they're really light. And most of the time when you shake them, you can hear that there's either something loose, that some of them can even still contain water, but they're just super light, where thunder eggs are extremely heavy.
So somebody told me on them geodes that what you do is you put it on the ground and you like spin it, and ever how it lands, that's where you take the point to hammer into it, because it puts, I guess, ever how it lands or whatever. That's how you split that.
That's adorable. That's really cool idea, actually. I mean, never I was given this. This was hit. Like someone took a hammer and went smash. That's the worst way you can cut open a geode. You're just gonna kill it, ruin the crystals. If there's anything cool inside, you just ruined it. You always want to cut it. Use a saw. You can also use like the rubber band method, which I've never found works, where you put a bunch of rubber bands around it and then you smack the rubber bands and then it kind of cracks it. I've tried it twice. It just made a mess. And so don't try that. Just get a saw or have somebody cut it at like a local like lapidary shop or something. But I've never heard of the spinning. That's so cute. That's such
Well,
a
I
great
think it's
idea.
well from what they were telling me, it's how it lands. So like it's going to
Yeah.
land, a heavy side or lighter side, and if you take a point and you hammer, from that top piece of it, it's going to crack it open where you're going to get two halves like. It looks nice.
Yeah.
But
I can
I don't.
understand that making physical sense, like from a physics standpoint. That would make sense.
Okay, so we were talking Lake Pleasant. Now, one thing that I've noticed out at Lake Pleasant, and you may have touched this a little bit or something to it. There's what I've always kind of called desert rose. They're kind of a chalcedony or whatever you call them.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
that what they?
Chalcedony roses.
Yeah.
So Um, so chalcedony is the primary constituent inside of a thunder egg. But thunder eggs that don't form, this one, you can't see it, but sometimes on the outside of them, they'll start to have these like almost rose looking petals of white chalcedony. And there's a lot of those that are out in that area. You have to like look for them. It's a pain to search, but they're beautiful. Um, they're all different shapes and sizes. Some of them can have cool little vugs inside of them where, a lot of people like fill them up with candle wax or stuff like that and make things out of them. But yeah, there's a bunch of them out there and they tumble really well too. So for kids that are into like tumbling or even, grown adults that do a lot of rock tumbling, they turn out really cool.
Okay, so here's, you go to different states, and I don't know how what the saying is. Gold, I think, has been found in every state, but there's only like maybe 3 states that it hasn't been commercially mined or something like that. But why
Mhm.
is it? Well, somebody's just saying, why is there never a gold rush in Utah, or how come Utah basically only has finer gold?
Utah has a lot of sandstone. So with that, um, okay, I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. Quartz sand can only get to be so fine. Like once it's ground down for centuries and centuries, it can only be so big. Once it gets to that point of it basically being as small as it possibly can be, that's where sandstone is formed. So, with that, the gold that came out of the granites and the mountains where this sandstone was originally created, the sandstone is done by wind, water, grinding of rocks, all kinds of stuff. All of that gold is smushed with it. So if you imagine the teeny tiny grains of the sandstone, which Utah has a ton of, uh, the gold is going to be even finer than that because the gold can get finer than that. So the processes that were creating all of that sand to make the sandstone basically wiped out any form of gold nuggets that could possibly form. So gold is not going to form or stay as those sandstone beds are built up. It's going to sink to the bottom. It's going to go out in the washes, and then that sandstone is going to be built filled with any form of silicate, cement, and whatnot to make the amazing things that they have in Utah. Some of the arches and some of those glorious features, geologic wise, are just breathtaking. But gold can't survive in that type of an area. It's already been washed away. So what you do find is kind of all you're going to get. There's nothing that's going to be like reformed. There's no like special miracle area. Unfortunately, Utah just doesn't have it.
And if there is any gold in Utah, it's under claim by the
Jeez.
Bingham Copper Mines, and they own it all. So you ain't
Yes.
getting anything.
Good luck battling them.
Yeah. Uh, let's see. So okay, so then how come like you go like I've heard you get back in places like say Georgia, North Carolina, stuff like that has the purest gold, and yet they can have the gold in your hard rock, but yet
Hmm.
you get to states like maybe Indiana and other places that's all part of the glacial drift gold. So
Hmm.
what's the difference in how come gold could be in Georgia through the veins, maybe like Arizona, but yet no place else, and yet the the glacial pushed in whatever gold is in the mother states.
Well, the glaciers were pushing in gold from all of those northern areas. So anything that came down from Canada, any of the northern states, pushed it down into the middle. It also was flattening it out at the same time. It was leaving its any form of its moraine debris where a lot of gold is actually found in both lateral and terminal moraines. You'll find a bunch of gold in those areas. They still actually do for the small amount of glaciation that happened in Nevada around Lake Tahoe on both the California and Nevada side. They have beautiful moraines over there that they mine for gold all the time. It's just small prospectors, but they always find it. For some reason, ice did a great job of transporting gold to where it put it. Why it only put it in certain states, I'm just assuming that that's where it started to melt off first. So anything heavy was already transported and just dropped because it was already near the bottom, anyways. And so when you go over to the other side, and you have like the beginning of the Appalachians and stuff like that, you have huge mountain forming events. So anywhere where you have these giant orogenetic events or orogenies that created giant mountains, you have post mineralization with them because you have this splitting and tearing and convergence of plates. Anywhere where there's a convergence of plate, you're going to get high heat, pressure, water. So any of those changes are also going to bring about post mineralization flow, and also liberating any minerals that were already in those rocks and popping them out of those areas to allow people to find them to find other sources. So there's a lot that happens with regional geology that's absolutely insane.
So how come though then states like Georgia has more pure gold or more, than what we have say in Arizona or someplace else?
Honestly, just because of the way that the post minerals came up, it was pure. Like there wasn't as many rare earth minerals or as many not rare earths, but I would say common metals. So you didn't get like a lot of your cadmium, your nickel, your iron, your zinc. You didn't get or your lead mixed in with it. So it just doesn't happen over there. So as the plates are, you have different areas that are, hydrothermal mainly, that are pushing these up. And so wherever those hydrothermal or geothermal activities are, they're going to get pushed off because they are not located there. They either melt off, they didn't survive. There's so many different reasons why, but basically those minerals, they're not as heavily pronounced over there. Whereas you come over here to the western states, there's everything. Like you name it and you can find the mineral or metal over here. You go further back east, you're like, wait, what happened? It's just because that's not the geology over there.
So how come, let's just say Arizona, you can get down around Phoenix area, Prescott, ever how you want to say it.
Okay.
And I know I said Prescott the other day and somebody attacked me for it, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Prescott, whatever. But anyways, you get to those areas, they're gold bearing, but you get up into Flagstaff and there's no gold up there. So does that just mean there's so much overburden, or does that just mean gold doesn't like Flagstaff?
Gold doesn't like Flagstaff. So actually, if you look at the Texas zone and where it mineralized, or I would say post-mineralized Arizona, there is a very, very specific swath. And I've drawn this out for people. But basically, if you draw a semi-ish straight line from, I guess, Houston to Nevada, with some little curves in between, there's that area of mineralization. If you look at all of the mining claims, all the major mining activity, all of the areas that have been found gold, they're right along that same zone. So if you go down like to Yuma, there's a lot of lead down there, tons of it, galena, fluorite, beautiful minerals, all that kind of things. You go up to Flagstaff and you get a lot of fossils, you'll get some obsidian, you'll get some quartz and calcite and that kind of thing, but there's no gold. It's just because it wasn't post-mineralized. There was no geothermal activity in those two areas to bring in the gold like it did in the middle of Arizona. And so that's the simplest explanation.
Okay, so whoever this is, anyway, how small can an occurrence of residual placer be?
It could be located to simply a couple acres. That's it. It grows from there. You could get a singular vein that has been washed out and crushed and then traveled down and only landed in one specific area. And that would have to do with the geography, just the actual lay of the land, the flowing of the water, and how old or new the deposit is. I would say the newer the deposit, the more constrained the area is going to be. But also you need that time in order to actually have it a placer claim and not hard rock area, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm just throwing these questions up here as I see them there. TW says, okay, so glacier moved gold from the north. So how is it that a small amount of glacial gold has been found in southern Oklahoma, but not in the northern area of the state? Honestly, it makes no sense.
That's the problem with a lot of, I would say, water movement or even ice movement. After being around glaciers for a small amount of time and kind of seeing what they do, seeing where they move, it doesn't make sense. So it really has to do with that lay of the land. Yeah, ice can move mountains. This is very true. But a small amount, just carrying a small portion, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but it's completely possible. If you think about the physics of the area, because I don't know the actual pinpoint of where you're talking about, but it'd be very easy for there to be gold found in just a teeny tiny area that was brought in from one single event, and that was it. And sure, it seems like a mystery, but in all actuality, it's extremely possible.
I heard there was only 4 nuggets in Oklahoma, and Mike Pung has found them all.
Someone needs to slap that man.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I I need to take a little break. Can you hang with us a second while I play a commercial, and we'll be right back?
You bet.
Cool. We'll be right back, folks.
ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal is the only monthly gold prospecting magazine published in the United States and is the most comprehensive and respected magazine about gold prospecting on the market today. With readers in all 50 states, it features articles on detecting, high banking, dredging, small-scale operations, assaying, basic geology, how to read the land, regulations, and more. Our monthly Ask the Experts column is answered by true experts. It features answers to readers' questions on processing, detecting, geology, and any other questions you may have related to finding and recovering gold and other precious metals. The Mining Journal features the most extensive selection of equipment, mining properties, services, and more, and a classified section featuring over 20 times more new and used items than the nearest competitor. The Mining Journal has been in continuous publication since 1931. A full 12 issues is available for just $27.95, and discounts are available for 2- and 3-year subscriptions. And an online subscription gives you access to over 3,000 articles going back nearly 20 years. Our purpose is to teach you how to find more gold. ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal is the tool you need to succeed. It's time to raise your gold prospecting knowledge to the next level with ICMJ's Prospecting and Mining Journal. Give us a call at 831-479-1500 or visit www.icmj.com. That's www.icmj.com.
Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, ICMJ, they tell you about rocks and that. I just want to go down this list here, see if who's logged in that I may have missed. Let's see, David Alfonsetti. I can never pronounce people's names here. I butcher everybody.
That's okay.
Buck Rackley, Mark, good evening. Shane, Doral. I've ran some trommels. Let's see. Charlie, hello. Ellie, Charles Castillo says. I think, let's see. Paul, Mike, Tad. I got way behind Jay, Master Jay. Okay. Let's see. Desert Dog 1. I think, okay. Herb Cato. Hello, Herb. Hey, Herb, tonight midnight's your deadline on getting a one of them Deus 2 metal detectors. Thomas Folks, welcome. Jason A.U. Colorado, glad you joined us. And Yukon Cornelius, all the way from the Yukons. If you had only one place to look for gold, what would it be?
Oh, crap. I would honestly go with either. Well, there's not one place. Arizona has great gold. It always has, but so does California and Nevada. And I would stick to those 3 places.
You know, what I find amazing, how many people leave Arizona to go to, like, Alaska?
My gosh. It's just because there's too many bears. You need to carry a rifle everywhere you go. And there's so much underbrush that no one else wants to go look for gold there. So it's still been buried. So you got a better chance, I suppose, if nothing else eats you, that you're going to find maybe some bigger gold quicker than you would by looking in Arizona. I don't know. It just takes time.
Well, I think, in Alaska, you can only mine it so many months out of the year. And so that's why there's still gold up there.
Freezing gold.
I thought you was going to say Australia.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, that would be cool. Actually, I totally forgot about that. I was thinking United States for some reason. I wasn't thinking out of the country. But Australia would be amazing. If anybody gets to go looking for gold there, oh, hell, take it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. That's what I'd say, Australia. So uh, let's see. It's too bad that it takes millions of years for gold to erode. Okay, so here's a question that I had too.
Mhm,
Uh, let's just say that hundreds of years ago or thousands of years ago, I could almost swear when I was a kid, there was gold laying on the ground. Gold
mhm.
wasn't worth anything. Nobody really cared about it, really. You know, I mean, wasn't really a valuable mineral before they, I think, 74 is when it became, uh, off whatever when they put it on the market or something. So if if everybody, let's just say, would leave the gold alone, nobody go
Mhm.
detect, just leave it alone. And my theory is like if you take and shovel dirt and rocks into a 5 gallon bucket and you shake that bucket, those big rocks come to the surface. So my thinking is if everybody would just leave this gold alone for the next 1,000 years, it's going to all come back to the surface again and be all over the place.
Okay, well, two parts. Bigger rocks do come to the surface, but if you're looking at those bigger rocks when you're shaking them in that barrel, you don't get any nuggets that come to the top. You get felsic rocks. You get those light rocks. Every time you shake a bucket, no matter what, that gold is always going to go to the bottom. So if you do wait, say 1,000 years, and that gold washes down, that gold's just going to work its way right with the water table as low down as it can because it's so much more physically heavier than anything else with its density that it will sink. You're never going to shake it up to the top, unfortunately. It's not. I wish it would happen. It won't. It'll continue to sink. It'll drill a hole in the ground before it'll pop up to the surface.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. It was a good
It
theory. I
was a
thought.
great theory. I got to give that to you.
Okay, there's no gold in Connecticut. I'm sorry, Yukon. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, so questions I had, some of them has already been answered. Uh, one is, I'm assuming. Well, let's just start with this here. What's your favorite type of rocks that you love to find?
Oh, I love finding so many. I love to find anything that has really great termination, which is like a point, or has great mineral cleavage, which is where it fractures and breaks. Um, so anything that is very colorful. Like I'm a huge sapphire fan or corundum. The mineral corundum is like probably my absolute favorite gemstone mineral. I really love precious fire opals. They're beautiful. And then just, I mean, anything that I can go out and find. I've never been one of those people that's like, this is my favorite. Even though I'm a huge fan of agates, I still have the majority of the collection that I collected with my dad as a kid. I still have it. And so, those all those things, I absolutely love them all. And it was really bad this year going to the Gem and Mineral show with my fiance. Literally, he's catching me in midair as I'm trying to run to the next table. And he's like, you have got to calm down. And I was like, I wanted to see everything at once just because it was so much fun to see it all. And I want them all, right? But I really love going out in the field and collecting them on my own as much as I love going to the Gem and Mineral shows.
So what is the thing with this is what I've kind of heard up around the Baghdad area. I'm assuming if I remembered right, you have the town of Nothing up in that area someplace.
Hmm.
And back there, you have a lot of people go back up in there and they hunt for that purple agate,
Hmm.
which they say is known worldwide or something.
Hmm. Yes. So you have a purple blue pastelite, and that's what it's called. It's beautiful. I have some. It's really cool. I would have to sneak out from behind my curtain if you guys like all wanted to see it. But yeah, a lot of people will go up to that nothing area, and you just go into closer to where the mesas are, any of the volcanic rock activity, but there's a very specific, like, layer change. You'll go from a red rhyolite to almost this whitish colored rock. It's not caliche, it's not, any kind of an alluvium. It's, it's just in there. It was volcanic, and that's where those rocks come out of. And so it's really cool to see. You can see the pattern along the hill, and you know exactly where to look. So it's pretty neat. The It's just a different form of a white rhyolite, which is mind-blowing, but it's really cool.
That I was thinking that's Burrow Creek area, if I remembered right, up in that area.
Yeah, you can go down to Burrow Creek, actually there in the creek area, and it's a great thing to do, like spring, summertime, because the water's right there. And you just take a big old sledgehammer. Always wear safety glasses, though, people. I've seen some massive, massive injuries from people smacking a rock on another rock and it reflecting and hitting somebody else. So just always do yourself a favor, be safe about it. But yes, there are a lot of them down there, and you can find a common opal down there as well, like you can in the thunder eggs, and that's associated with the pastelite as well.
I remember years and years ago, I had a friend that was into rock hounding and kind of got me involved going out to different places, like from Payson or wherever. I mean, looking there's books out. There's actually books you can buy that tells you like rock hounding of Arizona or whatever.
Oh
that
yeah.
tells you where different rocks are found. And we go to these areas, and I remember used to find this tourmaline, and ooh, man, I'm finding rocks. But
yeah. You have to be super careful with those books nowadays because I have some older ones, and if you go to the locations, geez, there are signs or there is a fence and there's no trespassing, you're going to be shot, sort of things, like in a lot of them. So you're like, wow, I drove all the way up here for this. So that's unfortunate, but times change. You have to kind of roll with it and just do your research beforehand. But it's a lot of fun to go try to follow.
I watched your mercury retort video a while back. Do you do that often? Is he talking to you or me?
He's talking to me. I loved doing that. That was a blast. That was the first time I had ever done it, and it was for a claim that we're extracting gold from. We're getting some heavier material that we cannot pan out of our gold, and so we went to mercury, we retorted it. It turned out great, and we'll do it again. That was the first time though, and I haven't done it since. But it will become a normal process if we continue to be in this type of problem.
I play with mercury all the time. A lot of my fine gold just goes in the mercury.
Yeah, it's easy. As long as you're safe about it, you're absolutely fine. And a retort's great because you get all of the mercury back. I was blown away by the machine.
Oh no, I just put it in acid.
Oh, you do?
And then so I'll burn that all off, and then it's all in solution, and then you just throw in some copper wires or something and let it stick back to the copper, and then take them out and go that. But no, I know the retort's the most. Yeah, you're right. Retorting, you should be doing it with a retort.
That's right. There you go. Finally, someone caught on here.
Use a retort. That's right. Not no acids.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
No potatoes either.
Oh my gosh. Oh. That's funny.
Okay. You mentioned so you get your rocks. Do you keep all your rocks or do you sell them or what?
Both. I actually do. I'm probably getting rid of my website where I was selling my rocks, just because it's a hit or miss. Sorry, my curtains are being all weird and the light is like being all freaky right now because of the bushes outside. Sorry. Anyways, but I have my Etsy. I sell rocks on there, a few of them. I just haven't put them all on it. And then I also sell rocks on my website. And then sometimes I'm at different shows and whatever, and I always am bringing along all my stuff because I don't want to keep all of what I have. It's way, way too much. It's insane. Like, when you're moving, like, I would give it a couple 1,000 pounds of rocks every time you move. Like, yeah, there's something wrong with you. And so for me, there's always something wrong because I'm like, my fiance will go out back. Oh, what's this tote for? It's like, oh, it's fine. You don't need to mess with it. There's nothing in there at all. And he'll open it up and he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, how long have these been in here? And I was like, I don't know, like 6 months. And so sometimes I don't always get to everything quickly enough, but I do try to sell what I can. Some people aren't looking for like some gigantic piece of something that's huge, but I like it. So just depends on what it is. I'm always polishing the rocks that I find too, because I absolutely love doing that. They turn out beautiful. And that's actually something that I do need to write down and remember to put on my Etsy is everybody's been asking for polished rocks. And so I do a lot of polished a fire agate and just regular agate too.
So you hit the the Tucson Gem Show and the Quartzsite Gem Shows?
Yes. I hit both of them. I only got to spend a day and a half at the Tucson one, or kind of technically 2 days. But I hit the Pueblo show or Pueblo. I'm not exactly sure what the name of it was. And then the one with, what was it? They had a bunch of dinosaurs and whatnot. They had like a huge T-Rex and whatnot, and all of these other things. But literally, what I did in 2 days, I still didn't get to see everything at each one of the shows that I walked through. It was insane. And I mean, I would say the amount of money that is spent there every year on like pretty gems and minerals, weird stones, fossils, trinkets, like you name it, it's crazy. Like it's absolutely insane. And there are people from all over the world there that are selling the minerals from some mine from different countries and whatnot. Some people are their own source. Most people are buying the minerals from someone else that bought them from a mine to go and sell them. But all in all, I mean, it's an amazing show. If people haven't seen it, you see stuff there that is, goes in the Smithsonian. You see things that nobody will ever see again sometimes. And the finds are absolutely fascinating. And then the Quartzsite show, that was pretty cool. They were a little more low key, a little more chill, a little bit more of a local group that were doing everything. But still, what they had was phenomenal to go look at. So I was pretty impressed with both places.
So Yukon says, do you know a good online school for geology?
Ooh, I don't actually, unfortunately. The best thing I could recommend. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say Google it.
Oh yeah, Google it. Look that up. But if you want to get into geology, like go to Goodwill, go to Salvation Army or whatever secondhand bookstore, something. Just find old geology books, beginner geology books. Don't overwhelm yourself, and start there. And then if once something comes up, if you find a good online college, then at least you'll have a heads up and know a few of the terms or things that they're talking about before you actually start to study it.
See, that's why I can't read those books, because I can't pronounce the words.
And, well, you have to Google each word to pronounce the words.
I know. You get into metamorphics and all these weird things, and it's like, what the hell, epithermals, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused before I even read the first paragraph.
You're not wrong. Are you going to Denver in September for the Fossil Gem and Mineral Show? I didn't know that there was one there in September, but that would be cool. I have a friend in Denver that I need to go see, that we're actually supposed to do a collaboration, but I don't know if it's going to wait until December for that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, there's some cool gem hunters in Denver and Colorado area.
Well, there's so many different abandoned mines. And so if I could go up there and spend a week running around to every possible location that I was allowed to get into without being shot, that would be awesome. And then I could collect minerals at the same time. So I'd have a whole bunch of fun making videos and finding rocks.
So I leave here eventually after I come back from the Salt Lake area. I'm going to be over at Franconia. I'm going to be spending time down there. I like to park right up there by the power plant when you first pull in.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I'll be there. I'll go out and look I got some mining claims out there. So I'll go out and look for gold. I'll look for meteorites and just chill out there. But yeah.
Very cool.
Let's see. Did they what was I just going to say? I was going to say, you mentioned that you got a YouTube channel. How people can follow you?
Oh yeah, they can follow me. Ellie Knows Rocks, and at Ellie Knows Rocks is every type of social media you can find me on there. And if it's not me, then somebody has stolen a profile.
So YouTube channel is Ellie Knows Rocks. You can go subscribe to
Mhm.
her channel on that. Facebook page, I'm assuming Ellie Knows Rocks.
You bet. Instagram,
Twitter,
Twitter,
yeah,
TikTok, yes. It's everywhere.
everywhere. Okay. Alrighty. So it's been an hour and a half. We can start wrapping it up. I know we'll let you go here. You've been an awesome. When it comes to talking rocks and geology, that's one of the things you could just spend forever, doing it.
Yes.
There's so many questions to
Mhm.
get to, and so many. It's like, I don't know. Up here, there's a lot of Joshua trees and yucca plants, but yet you get down in other parts of the valley where, you don't have the same plantation, but yet you
Mhm.
still have gold.
Yes.
And there's, like I say, there's just so many different. Anyways, uh, she got some pretty cool videos. Go check it out. TW says. Okay.
Thanks.
Uh, on the so before we let you go,
Mhm.
what's probably the best piece of advice you could give to somebody who maybe wants to get involved with this hobby, collecting
Into rock
rocks?
hounding or gold prospecting? Or both?
Let's both. Let's just go with rocks since you're a rock guru.
I would say if you want to get into rock hounding in whatever area you're in, one of the best places to start is just to look at the base of the mountains, anywhere along an old stream bed, that kind of thing. And the reason being is a lot of those rocks have already been tumbled. You can kind of see what's in them. You take a squirt bottle with you and you can start to see what minerals look like at that level. So if they're in the stream beds, following the stream beds, usually on Google Earth or something like that, up to where the mountains are, that's going to take you to where the source is. And so the source is where you're going to find the bigger things, things that are more terminated, maybe a little prettier. Looking at any form of an area where there was post mining, any dump piles, stuff like that gives you really, really cool old minerals. Just go out in the desert and start to look around. Do some research. Make sure that you're not on private land or stuff like that. And if you are on Arizona trust land, just get a permit. It's $21. It's easy. You can go out there. It allows you to rock hound, and you're perfectly legal to do so without apps getting a ticket, which sucks. And then on top of that, just get a couple books for beginner mineral identification. On my Instagram and Facebook, I put up a thing of all the books that I started to use, and they're still out there. The same books are still there. They just might look a little bit different now. But those are some of the best things that you can do just to start. And it's a lot of fun. You can start to catalog what you find. I know that I have a lot of my different followers who said they've learned so much and they go out now and they are taking their kids and they're teaching their friends and doing that kind of thing. So it's a growing hobby. And if you like it at all, just start doing it. Just get outside and start looking at the ground.
Just start looking. Even if you're picking up heart rocks, just go out and do
That's
it.
right. If you love heart-shaped rocks, you pick them up.
That's what a question. Any books particularly that you would recommend for somebody starting out?
Yeah, actually, I have a picture of one that I just took recently. Let me find it and then I will show you guys. Because for Arizona, they actually have a book of Arizona rocks and minerals. That's what it looks like. But it's just Arizona rocks and minerals if you're in Arizona. But one of the ones that I really like is this guy. It's just National Audubon Society of Rocks and Minerals. And then Minerals of the World. This one specifically is awesome because it gives you pictures of minerals that are pristine and minerals in the field. And then the book that I took everywhere with me, this has been around the world with me, is this one. And it's a really thick, small book, but it's really hard to see. It's Rocks and Minerals, but it's Simon and Schwartzer Guide to Rocks and Minerals. And I should re-put it up on my Facebook so that everybody can actually see those pictures again, just because things get lost. But any of those books, they're awesome, they're easy to use, and they have friendly pictures so that you're not just going, oh, this is a perfect sample. How am I supposed to find that? Because that doesn't really help people. You need to find a book that has samples of what you're looking at in the field. And so that's why I like these books.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll let you go, head off, and hope that you'll come back and join us again in the future and
You
update
bet.
us on some of your newest endeavors.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us, Ellie.
See you later.
Okay, good luck. All right. Awesome guest, awesome knowledge. Let's say we could go on and on learning about the different gems and rocks and stuff like that. But let's say those are one of them things that you'd be around forever. So anyways, we'll go ahead and start ending this show on down. Next week, I'll be on the road someplace else. So continue to watch. I want to appreciate all you guys hanging with us. Appreciate all you guys' support. If you're a subscriber to the channel, hey, welcome. So I'll roll the supporters out first and then in the song. So anyways, thank you guys all for tuning in. You guys all have a fantastic rest of your week. And until we meet again, you guys all take care and thanks for watching. Look at that. More gold. More gold. Yes, there is gold in there. Yeah. We like gold. Not a lot, but hey, you know what? There's gold. Let's see how you can see. Oh, there's gold. I see gold. Look at that. Look at all that gold. Woo-hoo, baby. Looking good, huh? Look at it all. Whoa. Nice chunky pieces in there. So that is nice gold.
Everybody, there's nothing to lose. The boss has had you working like a barred mule. But the weekend's here, it's time to let out a yell. Let yourself go, people, let me tell you, there's nothing else like it when you're out here feeling this good. Everyone wants to go. Everyone wants to go. It's all about getting out, you know, and it doesn't even matter if we're thanking gold. 'Cause everybody wants to go to my dredging hole. The gold rush days are here. I'm scratching and digging, looking for a bigger man to love that country, yeah. And the feeling that I'm getting no other compares. What I'd like to do is find a nugget or two, but it's all good when I'm here in the woods. Everyone wants to go. Everyone wants to go. It's all about getting out, you know, and it doesn't even matter if we're finding the gold. 'Cause everybody wants to go to my dredging hole. When I'm camping out, I got it all decked down. Don't look now, it's what you're thinking about. Well, the admission price is a bag of ice. Break off a piece of this paradise. Got a hammock tied up to a couple of trees, swinging back and forth to the sound of the leaves. Everyone wants to go. Everyone wants to go. It's all about getting out, you know, and it doesn't even matter if we're finding the gold. 'Cause everybody wants to go to my dredging hole. Everyone wants to go. Everyone wants to go. It's all about getting out, you know, and it doesn't even matter if we're finding gold. 'Cause everybody wants to go to my dredging hole.